Hey, what's up everybody? Eternal Fire here, and today we're going to be doing a complete Prot Paladin guide for the Shadowlands pre-patch. In this video, we will cover new and existing abilities in the Spellbook, stat priorities, talent builds, essences and Azerite as they are still active in the pre-patch, and finally the rotation. If you are here for a specific segment of the video, please check the description below for timestamps. But first, if you like this content, consider becoming a member of my channel by clicking the join button, aka it's Twitch subscribe for YouTubers. Either way, your support is appreciated. With that, let's get started. We're going to start off with the Spellbook because it's really important moving forward to understand the spells that the Prot Paladin has. So first off, we have Avenging Wrath. It's a 1.7 minute cooldown, or a base of 2 minute cooldown. It's reduced for me because I have the Essence Vision of Perfection. So what it does, it increases your damage, healing, and critical strike by 20% for 25 seconds. So this is basically just going to be a really good DPS cooldown for you. You can use it defensively, but really you're just going to use it as a DPS cooldown. Blessing of Freedom, 25-second cooldown. You can use it on yourself, a party, or raid member, and it grants immunity to movement and pairing effects for 8 seconds. So basically, if you get slowed, rooted, you need to get out of something, your party member needs to get out of something, you can put Blessing of Freedom on them if they're rooted or slowed, and it will help them survive. Blessing of Sacrifice, the same kind of idea as the other blessing up top. It's a 2 minute cooldown, however, and it reduces the damage taken by 30% of a party or raid member, but you suffer 75% of the damage prevented. So you reduce their damage by 30%, but you take 75% of that 30%. It lasts 12 seconds or until transfer damage would cause you to fall below 20% health. So if you're using this ability to save a teammate, and then you yourself drop below 20%, drop to 20% health or lower, it's going to just cancel the effect and it'll end before the 12 seconds is over. Consecration, it's a 4-second cooldown, and what it does is it puts this under you, and it does damage to enemies in it, and basically there's a lot of benefit to having this, and we'll talk about it in more detail later, but basically you always want to be standing in your Consecrate with your enemies in it as well. Moving down, we have Auras. So this is new again. It increases mount speed for all party and raid members within 40 yards. Then you'll notice when you switch an aura, it's just a permanent buff that you have. So anybody in range is going to benefit from that buff. What we're going to be using as tanks is Devotion Aura. So you're just going to always have this up. Party or raid member within 40 yards are bolstered by their devotion, reducing damage taken by 3%. So when you see you have this buff up here, you just take a flat 3% damage reduction. Divine Shield is your bubble. It's on a 5-minute cooldown, grants immunity to all damage and harmful effects for 8 seconds. Cannot be used if you have Forbearance. So Forbearance is you have a certain number of abilities that are so powerful they'll give you Forbearance, like Divine Shield, Lay on Hands. What's the other one that's a talent? Blessing of Spell Warding. You're going to get Forbearance for 30 seconds, so you can't use another powerful ability like that until your Forbearance wears off. Divine Steed, you leap atop a charger for 3 seconds. It's basically just a movement speed effect. You mount up, even if you're indoors, you can use it. And, that's a really great thing to have in your toolkit. You can use that just to get somewhere faster. You can use it to run away from mobs if it's necrotic week and you need to get some space so your stacks can fall off. Lots of good uses for the Divine Steed. Flash of Light, it is a heal. The only thing about it is if you use this heal in combat, you cannot block, dodge, or parry. So there's a very good chance that you'll actually take more damage than this heal is going to offer you. So it's a great heal for pretty much out of combat or if you're not taking too much damage. Hammer of Justice is a 1-minute cooldown. It's a stun for 6 seconds, single target. Hammer of Wrath is like an execute for the warrior. It's a 6.7 cooldown or based on your haste that you have. And it hurls a divine hammer that strikes an enemy for holy damage, only usable on enemies that have less than 20% health. Haste, hence making it a execute ability. And it generates 1 holy power. So holy power is basically the energy bar you have, because Prot Pallies, unless you're using like Flash of Light type heals, you're not really using mana. You're generating holy power and spending holy power now. So you'll see you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stacks of holy power that you can get up to. So you're going to be generating holy power and spending holy power, and we will get into all of that in just a few minutes. Hand of Reckoning is your taunt, forces an enemy to taunt you. Judgment is a 5.4 second cooldown or based on your haste, deals damage to the target and causing them to take 25% increased damage from your next holy power ability. So basically what that's going to be is you judge a target, and then when you do use your Shield of the Righteous, which is your main mitigation, we'll get to that, it's going to do 25% more damage if you judged them first. Lay on Hands, this is another one of your Forbearance abilities where you get the Forbearance debuff for 30 seconds. It's a 10-minute cooldown, heals a friend or target for amount equal to your maximum health. So being the tank, you're most likely going to have the most health in your group, so it's a max heal. If you do it on yourself, obviously it's a max heal because it's your max health. Redemption is an out of combat revive on your teammates. Retribution Aura, when a party or raid member dies within 40 yards, you gain Avenging Wrath for 8 seconds. So, I mean, not great because it means your friends are dying and it's going to make your chances of finishing the boss fight or trash pack lower, but at least you get a damage buff out of it, right? So Shield of the Righteous slams the enemies in front of you with your shield, causing holy damage and increasing your armor by X amount for 4.5 seconds. And it costs 3 holy power. So like we talked about, you know, Judgment generates 1 holy power. And then what else? Hammer of Wrath generates 1 holy power. Shield of Righteousness is what you're going to be spending your holy power on primarily. You also have Word of Glory, which is a self-heal in combat. It's an instant, so you this is the heal, like I said, with Flash of Light. You want to use that out of combat primarily, or if you're safe. Word of Glory is going to be you're in the trenches heal. And it's very powerful right now as well. So Shield of Righteous, this is your active mitigation. You want to try to have this up as much as possible. And all the abilities that you're using to generate, I almost said rage, holy power, you're going to be using that holy power and spending it on Shield of the Righteous primarily. You want to try your best to only use your holy power on this if you can. So we're going to get more into that. Turn Evil. The Power of the Light compels an undead, aberration, or demon target to flee up for 40 seconds. Damage may break the effect. Only 1 target can be turned at a time. It's on a 15-second cooldown. So basically what this is, it's a fear. You have a fear. You're a warlock now. And then Word of Glory. So this is your other holy power spender. So your holy power spenders are Shield of the Righteous and Word of Glory. Again, it costs 3 holy power, calls down light to heal a friendly target for, you know, X amount. Protection, if cast on yourself, healing increased by up to 300% based on your missing health. So the lower your health is, the more powerful this heal is. So you do not want to really be using this heal if you're like 50% health or higher, because you're spending valuable holy power on a heal that's now weaker because it heals you more if your health is less, right? That's why it's really important to try to use the mass majority of your holy power on your Shield of the Righteous, which is your active mitigation, which is going to make you take less damage from physical attacks. Now, here's the kicker. Paladins can block magic damage, but if you're taking a lot of magic damage, it's not going to be enough, and the Shield of the Righteous isn't really going to protect you. That's where Word of Glory can come in more so. Right? Because if you're taking a lot of magic damage, having more armor is not going to help you. So this is where this kind of becomes like a form of active mitigation for you. You're mitigating the damage that you're taking by healing yourself more, right? I hope that makes sense. So moving to the protection tab, you have your first survivability cooldown. Ardent Defender reduces all damage you take by 20% for 8 seconds. It's on a 2-minute cooldown. The next attack that would otherwise kill you will instead bring you to 20% of your maximum health. So this is a save you from dying ability. You can pop it just if you need damage reduction. I don't necessarily recommend just using it when you're gonna die, because then you would probably not be using it as much as you could be in a dungeon. But yeah, you're gonna use this as a survivability cooldown. And certainly if you have it up when you do feel like you're about to die, this will save you for a little while. Avenger's Shield. This is another holy power generator. It's on a 13-second cooldown or based on your health. Hurls your shield at an enemy target, dealing holy damage, interrupting and silencing non-players for 3 seconds, and then jumping to an additional to 4 additional nearby enemies. So this is probably, in my opinion, the most fun thing about the Prot Pally is using your Avenger's Shield, because that just feels so good. When you throw your shield, it knocks around a bunch of people. You feel like Captain America. Shield comes right back to you and you keep fighting. Your other melee abilities have a chance to reset the cooldown of this, and you'll want to take advantage of that. So again, this is another one of your holy power generators. So moving down, Blessing of Spell Warding. This is a talent, so we'll talk about that. Blinding Light's a talent, we'll talk about that. Cleansing Light just cleanses poison and diseases off you or a friendly target, whoever you're targeting. It's an 8-second cooldown. Guardian of the Anxious, so this is your real oh crap button right here. It's an instant ability, a 5-minute cooldown, and it reduces all damage you take by 50% for 8 seconds. So that's a really good survivability cooldown you have right there. Hammer of the Righteous. Hammers a target for physical damage. While you are standing in your consecration, Hammer of the Righteous also causes a wave of light to hit all other targets within 8 yards for holy damage, and it generates 1 holy power. You have 2 charges of this. So what does that mean? It means that if you use Hammer of the Righteous without consecration, it's only hitting this 1 target. If you drop your consecration down and now you use it, your Hammer of the Righteous is hitting all your enemies. So that is one of a few benefits of being in your consecrate with your enemies right there. So yeah, super important. Always have your consecrate down, because you're going to do more AoE damage. You're going to do more damage just by being in your consecrate, and we will go over that even more. Rebuke is your interrupt. It interrupts spell casting, prevents any spell in that school from being cast for 4 seconds. And then we jump into our passive, so we're almost done. Grand Crusader. When you avoid a melee attack or use Hammer of the Righteous, you have a 20% chance to reset the remaining cooldown on Avenger's Shield. Okay, so that's huge. You know, you're going to be using Hammer of the Righteous as part of your regular cooldown, or one of your regular rotation abilities, and basically when you do that, it gives you a 20% chance of resetting Avenger's Shield, which, as I said, is like the most fun thing about the Prot Pally. So you want to do it as much as you can, because it's going to increase the overall fun that you have. So then we have Mastery. Divine Bulwark increases your chance to block melee attacks by X amount depending on your mastery. Reduces all damage taken while inside your consecration by whatever depending on your mastery. So again, another reason to have Consecrate down, because if you have a good amount of mastery, your Consecrate is just going to reduce more overall damage that you take. So then it also increases your attack power as well. So I think Mastery is going to play a pretty important role for the Prot Pally. And then Riposte, your parry. You gain parry equal to 100% of your critical strike from gear. And then lastly, Shining Light. Every 5 Shield of the Righteous make your next Word of Glory free. So remember when I said... let's go back here to our active mitigation. You have Shield of the Righteous, Word of Glory. That's what you're spending your holy power on. Remember when I said you want to try to use the mass majority of your holy power on Shield of the Righteous and keeping that up as much as possible? That's because every 5 Shield of the Righteous that you use with Shining Light, you get your self heal for free. So when you get a free heal, now you can use that without having to spend your valuable resource of holy power. So I felt that was really important to explain, and understanding, how to prioritize using your paladin, because really at the end of the day, if you see that you're like at, 70% health, 75% health, 60% health, whatever, and you go and use a Word of Glory, there's a really good chance that you're going to have too much downtime where you don't have Shield of the Righteous up for your active mitigation, physical active mitigation, and you're going to take a lot more spike damage. You're going to really feel it. You want to try to keep Shield of the Righteous up as close to 100% of the time as possible. Use your Word of Glory when it's free, when you get a free proc from your Shining Light, and then you use your Word of Glory and spend your holy power to use it if you are like dropping below 50% health to pick yourself back up, because again, the more health you're missing, the stronger this heal is going to be on you. For stat priorities, the first thing to realize in Shadowlands is that at 20% of any given secondary stat, the amount of that stat that it costs to get the next percentage past 20% is going to increase. So let's say for haste, for instance, let's use the example that it's 25 haste points to get 1% of haste. Once you get to 20%, the next percent is going to be like 35, right? So it's going to get more expensive to get additional haste percentage past 20% haste. With that said, I think the stat priorities will probably be first and foremost eye level. So eye level is probably going to be an increase, but you definitely want to focus on these secondary stats if you can help it. It's going to be haste, mastery, versatility, and crit. Haste, because it reduces a lot of our rotational abilities, so that means you're going to be generating more holy power and you're going to be keeping Shield of the Righteous up more. And then mastery, like we talked about for consecration, standing in consecration, it reduces the damage you have based on more mastery you have. And then it also increases your chance to block and attack power. And then versatility just increases your damage and reduces the damage you receive by just a flat percentage amount based on your versatility. And then lastly, crit, which just increases your damage and also increases your chance to parry. So again, it's going to be item level, haste, mastery, versatility, and crit. So moving on to the talents. Remember earlier I said prot pallies can block spells? Well, that's because of Holy Shield. It's a passive, and your block chance is increased by 15%, which is great, and you are able to block spells, which is even greater, and your successful blocks deal a very small amount of holy damage to your attacker every time you block. So, I mean, it's great. It helps you mitigate magic damage or magic spells, which we really kind of lack from magic mitigation. So, I mean, other than this, we have Word of Glory, and then we'll talk about Blessing of Spell Warding coming up. So yeah, Holy Shield is great because it increases your block and your chance to block spells. Next, we have Avenger's Shield. It's another passive. Avenger's Shield hits 2 additional targets and grants you an Absorb Shield for 100% of all damage it deals. So this is really nice for Mythic Plus. You pull a trash pack or 2, and you use your Avenger's Shield, and every target that it hits, the damage that it deals, not only are you hitting more targets with your shield, which, like I said before, it's fun to use, so hitting more targets is even more fun, but it's also giving you an absorb for 100% of all damage that it deals. So this is really great for dungeons and Mythic Plus. If you're raiding, you're going to want to consider taking Crusader's Judgment. Judgment now has 2 charges, and Grand Crusader now also grants a charge of Judgment. So you're going to get more uptime on, or more generation of holy power from this ability. But for Mythic Plus, definitely go with First Avenger, in my opinion. In the next tier, we have Blinding Light, Repentance, and Fist of Justice. What we're going to use is Blinding Light because it, emits a dazzling light in all directions, blinding enemies within 10 yards, causing them to wander disoriented for 6 seconds. Non-holy damage will break the disorient effect. So it's just really nice to have that, disruption, AoE disruption ability, especially for Mythic Plus. It's on a 1.5 minute cooldown. In the next tier, we have Blessing of Spell Warding. It's a 3-minute cooldown. So it's basically like, I don't know, I kind of view it as like having a warrior spell reflect, but it's a 3-minute cooldown. So blesses a part of your raid member, that could also be yourself, granting immunity to magical damage and harmful effects for 10 seconds. Cannot be used on a target with forbearance. So again, going back to like Lay on Hands, Divine Shield, this is another one of the things that it's so powerful, you use it and it gives you 30 seconds of forbearance. So yeah, basically it makes you immune to magical damage and harmful effects. So, that's just another thing we can add to our toolkit, whereas Cavalier just gives you 2 charges of Divine Steed for speed, and then Unbreakable Will reduces the cooldown of Divine Shield, Ardent Defender, and Lay on Hands by 30%. So, I think the go-to in here, especially for Mythic, for raiding, you might consider this, unless you're raiding and you have, a boss that's doing a lot of magic damage. This could be one of your buttons that you use when you're tanking. But for Mythic Plus, I'm going to be using this, it looks like, out of this tier. In the next one, we have Divine Purpose. It's a passive. Holy Power abilities have a 15% chance to make your next Holy Power ability free and deal 20% increased damage and healing. So basically, as you're passively playing, this could proc and make it so your next Shield of the Righteous actually didn't consume any holy power, or your next heal didn't consume any holy power, and they will also consequently deal more damage or heal you for more. So that's a really good talent to have. In the next row for Mythic Plus, you're going to be taking Consecrated Ground. Your consecration is 15% larger and reduces the movement speed of your enemies in it by 50%. So for Mythic Plus, that is your go-to. That's huge. That's really helpful. Nice quality of life there, really. And then if you're raiding, you're going to use Judgment of Light. Judgment causes, every time you use Judgment on your enemy, it causes the next 25 successful attacks against the target to heal the attacker for a certain amount of healing. So what that means is you judge you know, let's say the raid boss, and now everybody's hitting him, and that means that everybody's going to just be getting a nice little raid heal, you know. So this effectively turns your judgment into, you know, just a healthy bit of raid healing. So for raiding, take Judgment of Light. For Mythic Plus, take Consecrated Ground. In the last tier, we're going to be picking Sanctified Wrath. In my opinion, it's better than the other options in almost all situations. It's another passive, so Avenging Wrath lasts 25% longer and causes Judgment to generate 1 additional holy power, and that's while Avenging Wrath is active. So when Avenging Wrath is up, your Judgment is now generating not 1 holy power, but 2. So while Avenging Wrath is up, you're going to be able to easily keep Shield of the Righteous up 100% of the time with holy power left over, meaning that with this talent taken, when Avenging Wrath is active, you want to prioritize using Judgment because you're going to get more bang for your buck as far as holy power generation goes. So we're going to cover Azerite traits and essences, as this is still BFA, just the pre-patch of Shadowlands, and we can still use those things. So first of all, for Azerites, you want to use at least 1 Light's Decree. And the tricky thing is that's a ret ability. So when you get the Azerite piece of gear, switch your specialization to ret, take Light's Decree, and then switch back to protection. And you'll be able to use a ret Azerite trait as a prot pally. So you want 1 Light's Decree, you want 1 Inspiring Vanguard, you want Avenger's Might, as that goes well with Light's Decree, and then you can take something after that. You can take something like Clockwork Heart or Heart of Darkness. For essences, what I like to use is my major is Vision of Perfection. It feels really good, and I think it's fun to use. And then for minors, I like Lucid Dreams, Conflict and Strife, and Nullification Barrier. We have arrived at the last portion of the video, being the rotation or the spell priority list. So first of all, as a reminder, you have your Avenging Wrath. It's no longer on the global cooldown, so you can pop that about 1 second before you pull. So that way, when you pull a single target mob, you're going to start with Judgment, and you will get the damage benefit from your Avenging Wrath. So you're going to start with Judgment because Judgment on a single target is going to do more damage than Avenger's Shield. So you would open with Judgment, go in, drop your Consecrate, Avenger's Shield, Hammer of the Righteous, and we're already capped on holy power, so we're going to go ahead and use our Shield of the Righteous. And at this point, you are literally just going to be making sure that Consecrate is down 100% of the time. Then you're going to be using these 3 abilities, Avenger's Shield, Hammer of the Righteous, and Judgment on cooldown to generate holy power, and then you're going to be spending that holy power on your Shield of the Righteous. Now, like we talked about before, again, you want to ideally try to only spend your holy power on Shield of the Righteous and only use Word of Glory. Spend holy power on Word of Glory if your health is dropping very low. So that is pretty much it. Keep your Consecrate up. Use Avenger's Shield, Hammer of the Righteous, and Judgment on cooldown to generate holy power, and then spend your holy power on Shield of the Righteous and keep it up as close to 100% of the time as possible. So that is your single target rotation. The AoE rotation is the same exact thing, except for you would open with Avenger's Shield, because again, Judgment is a single target ability and will do more damage on just one singular target, whereas Avenger's Shield is actually going to do more damage, and if you're trying to pick up multiple mobs at once, you're going to be using that fun ability that feels so good to use. So that is literally it. So a single target, open with Judgment, then do the rest of your rotation. Keep Consecration down for AoE, Avenger's Shield, and then the same exact rotation. And then the only other ability we're going to be adding in is Hammer of Wrath. When a target gets below 20% health, whether it's single target AoE, you can mix this into your rotation, and it also generates holy power, so that's a plus. So that is the rotation. And then just as a reminder, so we talked about your rotation abilities, things that generate holy power, what you spend your holy power on, and then not to forget you have Ardent Defender and Guardian of Ancient Kings. That is your survivability cooldowns, as well as you have your Divine Shield, your Lay on Hands, and then because we're talented into it, the Blessing of Spell Warding. So, but you know, the rotation by itself is really not complicated. You have your holy power generators and your spenders, and then you keep your consecration down. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope it shed some light on the Prot Paladin. If you liked it, be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. And if you really like this video, consider becoming a member of my channel, as it helps me and motivates me to keep creating content that hopefully is just helpful for people. So if they can understand what they're doing, it's going to make them enjoy the game more. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.